how does Sentimental Value connect and separate itself from your previous work?
Good question. I think it connects because I am still making character stories. I'm talking about relationships, intergenerational stuff, but it's different because it's more polyphonic. I think this time I'm also trying to talk about the historical implications on the individual life, and that's a bit of a new direction.
Sincerely, this movie feels a monumental feat. I wondered if to you it feels like a point from which it is hard to continue because it's so amazing.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Well, I always feel after film that I've done my best, and but then you start over. You go back to scratch and you start again, and something else will arrive. So I look forward to having some time to write again. So I hope I won't get stuck and that I'll continue in some kind of new direction. I don't know.
Because the house is a character in itself, full of sentimental value. Tell us where that pulsion comes from.
It started very simply because we didn't want to make like a chamber drama where people sit around the table and talk. I wanted it to have a bigger scope. And I think that the house represents a bigger perspective in the story that connects the family to historical elements. Like the house is a witness of the 20th century. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know, man. I try to make human stories. I try to observe the world and people around me, but I also try to understand them from the inside when I write and almost become the character. So I guess maybe I have a female side to me that I'm exploring in these characters. I don't know, man. I don't think so much about gender when we write. It's of course an aspect of life. To be a woman is different than being a man. I'm not diminishing that, but I think about them as individuals, and I also think the actors contribute a lot. They make them come alive.
She kind of binds the past of the country, the past
Yeah.
of the family. She is family, she is history. For
Yeah.
me, she's the MVP of the movie, but I wanted for you to tell us
I'm
about
very glad you say
her.
that. That character is very dear to me. And it was one of the biggest challenges was to find Inga to play the younger sister. I wrote the film for Renate and for Stellan, but I didn't know who's going to play the young sister. And finding her was one of the greatest gifts to this film. She's remarkable and very truthful in her depiction of Agnes. And you're absolutely right. She's a grounding force that ties them to the past and to history. And I feel for her because she's trying to get these two difficult, the father and the big sister, to connect, and it's an impossible task. So I like her as well.
Tell us a little bit about the performances that actually surprised you after all of that casting.
I actually have a lot of great roles in this, like Jesper Christensen. I have Lena Endre, a great Swedish actress. I also have Corey Michael Smith that plays one of the agents, and the publicist is played by Catherine Cohen, who's a big comedian in the US. So all of these parts, and my old friend Anders Dahl Nielsen Lee shows up. That's played in Oslo, August 31st, The Worst Person in the World, reprise. So it's a real. It was my favorite ensemble. It was everyone I wanted to work with, and they all said yes. So I feel extremely grateful.
You told me you wrote the film up for Stellan and Renate. Tell us, how does that start? How do you put them together after thinking, I'm going to write this for them?
I think it's the dynamic between a father and a daughter who really love each other, and they're very similar, but they don't know how to connect. So in a way, they're very similar. Renate's character, we drew a lot on the workaholic drive of that character. We thought was fun and interesting to explore, Renate and I. And for Stellan, it was almost a contrast because he's very different than Gustav Borg. Stellan is actually very warm and communicative and sweet. So it was interesting to create a character where we peel back the difficult layers and see that at the core of Gustav is a wounded, vulnerable man.
Tell us about Renate, the performance she gives. It's always so
I
powerful.
think she's one of the greatest actors in the world right now, and we have a dear friendship. We trust each other. We don't need to say many words. We understand intuitively a lot of the same things, and it's a great collaboration. I'm very lucky to have someone to work with like her.
Now, Joachim, your film, of course, in Cannes, it was very well received as it should have been. Now you have 8 nominations for the Golden Globes. We don't know what the Oscars might bring. how does the reception your movie is getting impact you?
It's a lot of traveling that I hadn't been expecting, but I'm very glad and I'm very proud of the team and the actors. There's 1,072 people on the credits of the film that helped, and I'm kind of the captain of the ship that have to go on this journey now and talk about the film, and it's a privilege. I'm really happy that people are receiving it so well.
What would you say was the biggest challenge during shooting this film?
I think it was to find the tonal balance between all the characters, trying to figure out how to make it into one cohesive movie. That was interesting, but also fun. I mean, I think that, and also to work with so many different, you call it day players, like every day someone new arrived, and to make them feel at home and safe, and that was very important for us.
There's the whole thing, Netflix getting a buying Warner Brothers, films being in danger. And we have a year in which we had Sentimental Value, A Simple Accident, Hamnet. I mean, incredible films. It feels like movies from one side are incredibly alive, but in danger. How do you read the scene, the moment?
I shoot on film. I love the big screen. I like the cinema. I grew up in the cinema seat. I'm an avid viewer of going to the theater. I love to be with strangers in a dark room, feeling that we are together, crying, laughing. I think we need cinema more than ever. My Christmas wish is that Ted Sarandos wakes up during Christmas and has a realization that he needs to support theatrical much more with his wonderful films, because Netflix makes good films. We just need them to be in the theater. So that's my Christmas wish, is that Ted Sarandos is going to go for theatrical. That would make the world better.
Thank you so much for this time. Congratulations, and maybe give a salute to Colombia and the audiences in this country.
I come from a country in the north, in Norway, where there's only 5 million people. I feel extremely grateful that my films have been allowed to travel way beyond what I expected. And I hope that there's a human story at the core of this film that translate into other languages. That's the feeling I'm getting, is that people understand that family is complicated everywhere in the world, and also in Colombia and Norway. So I hope that it creates a conversation between our cultures. That would be a big wish for me.